wanna be on the right side. I 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 wanna be on the right side of history.
Hello and welcome to a series of podcasts for Sing Along with Eric Hutchinson. And I am lucky enough to be here with the singer, songwriter, producer, and all-around good guy, Eric Hutchinson. My name is James Campion. I'm an author and a music journalist. And
I'm happy to be here with James Campion, author of the recently released book, Hey Jude. You can get it wherever you get books, right?
Yeah, it's called Take a Sad Song. Come on, buddy.
It's called Take a Sad Song.
No, anyway, yes, it's about Hey Jude. Thank you very much for the plug. And I will say
it's your
this.
Hey Jude book, Take a Sad Song.
Right, indeed. So I will say this. We've mentioned this in past podcasts. You and I do this anyway.
Yeah.
So to put microphones in front of us and talk about it, it's great. And I've often said, I think I've said it in every one of these series of podcasts, Eric always says to me, it's not an album until the two of us get together and talk about it.
Yes, I agree. I was excited. I sent a text today. It's podcast day.
I love those emojis.
I love it, and hopefully you guys enjoy this because, I try to do things at this point that I think I would be interested in. I would love to have some of my favorite musicians just tell me exactly why they did something, So this is us trying to get to as close of explaining the ideas behind everything, and I hope you like it.
Yes, and I've had people tell me, wow, more people should do this. More artists absolutely should do this. All right, let's get to the making of this record because it's very unique. You have these sing-along songs we talked about in the last episode that you're going for. You're going for a certain vibe, a style, an era. And so how do you choose the musicians? Because it seems like in the last couple of albums, you've gone to different, you went with the Believers, and then you had sort of a quasi-Believers thing, and then you had a jazz band, and now you have this group. It's very stripped down.
Yeah.
Mostly vocals. Tell me how you began.
Well, by the way, the Quasi-Believers is a great name for a band. The Quasi-Believers. The number one thing you had to have to be in this band to make this record was a good attitude. And that's maybe arguably always what I care about now more than anything. But this was especially, and you said it, you see it in the YouTube videos that we made. But I wanted this to be a party. I wanted it to be a celebration. I wanted everyone to be having a good time, and I wanted that to come through in the recordings. So the first thing was no grumpy musicians, and that takes some people out of the running. Some people show up mad, and then you got to sort of talk them out of it. I mean, we had my good friend Ian Allison play bass, who's played bass on several of my last records. He was flying in from Minnesota. And his flight got canceled. He ended up having to fly into Philly and stay over and then drive first thing in the morning, coming to the studio. He's had just a really crappy 36 hours. And he was all smiles and just, hey, how's it going? I'm so excited to do this. What a treat. And as my friend pointed out later, he could have easily walked in there and been like, oh, the traffic. I had to get a rental car and blah, blah, blah. And there's no room for that. And it's amazing how contagious that can be when someone's not in a good mood, and vice versa, how easy it is to be in a good mood when you've got lots of happy people.
Yeah, and I find that Ian, and the times that I've spent with him, and anytime I see him on stage, and you could see it in the videos, just looks like and rightfully so, why wouldn't he be? He's playing his instrument, he's playing with some talented people, and he's having the time of his life, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, so that was the first thing. You had to have a good attitude. Second thing, you had to be a great player. But yes, I did have to get several singers because I was trying to have as many singers as possible. And I don't know if you want to do
this on the fly because you originally wanted to do this. Were you going to do it with this group of musicians? I was
trying to. It was, again, we had a pretty big band where it was like 8 people, including me, plus trying to find a place to do it. And then Omicron came along, and I was thinking, do we have to just postpone this? But I truly felt, I was like, if we postpone it, I don't think we're going to get all 8 people together again, ever, probably. Like, it's just, we threaded the needle. We found 2 days that everyone could do. And so we just kind of had to make it work.
2 days, huh?
Yeah.
How many rehearsals did you have?
0.
Wow.
Which was partially because of COVID and Omicron. We did some walkthroughs where I talked to everybody on Zoom and sort of went over the songs and gave them some references and things. But no, we got into the studio and everyone kind of went, okay, how does this one go together? which I love. I love figuring it out and being,
especially for these songs. That
Yeah.
lends itself to the spontaneity.
Yeah, and I wanted a certain level of looseness that, like it, I wanted it to feel live and loose. So
It does.
So
yeah.
we didn't have any rehearsals, and we all got in there and
Before you go on,
did
did
the thing.
you send them? This is your thing you do now too. You send a tape or a mix, of all the songs you would like to
Yes.
kind of get them. So you did.
I made that, and we had that playing. It was an inspiration kind of playlist, and I had that playing when everyone was coming into the studio. And that was a mix of all kinds of different sing-along stuff. There was a lot of the folk protest stuff that we talked about before, but also there was some Broadway stuff and
Gospel, soul,
some
kind of
gospel
stuff.
for sure. Yeah, places where you find a group of people all singing together, and oftentimes joyously. So I sent that to them, and then we pulled people from all over. I don't know if we want to get into the band now or if we're doing that in the next episodes. But
No, let's get into them because we're going to the studio and I want to see how you guys process this. So tell me about everybody that plays on the record. You have at least 5 singers and a couple of singers that play other instruments.
Yeah, we had 7 singers, including me, and then an awesome percussionist who sang sometimes, but we didn't have a mic because I didn't want to make him sing. It's not necessarily what he's all about, so I didn't want to put pressure on him. But you can hear him singing in there. And he's actually the first voice you hear on the record. He counts off the first song. So that's Jimmy Coleman, who is a great drummer and percussionist from Philadelphia. And Jimmy and I toured together for many years. When I was first getting started, he toured with me for most of my Sounds Like This album and into a little tiny bit of Moving Up, Living Down. So we were touring together, 14 years ago.
Had he ever played with you in a studio, though?
Yes, we'd done some tracks. I don't think... He played on a song called Lisa that was a bonus track on Moving Up, Living Down, but a lot of the stuff never saw the light of day. So we hadn't really played in the studio a ton.
So you have a rhythm section that's not played together.
Well, yes, that's true. And he met Ian Allison, the bass player, and they kind of had to work things out. And they both got amazing, huge laughs, and you hear their laughs plenty in the album. And then, let's see who else. We had the vocalists were Caleb Hawley, who's this great singer-songwriter that I've gotten to know. I'd known of him for years, and we kind of got to be friendly. He lives in New York also, and so he was singing. One of my good friends, Melanie Niema, who's a singer, professional singer. She's toured many years with Taylor Swift, has kind of been her main gig. Taylor hasn't been on tour much lately, but she's an amazing singer. And then we had a person I met who was new named Veronica Frommer Stewart. Frommer Stewart. I should double check. I apologize, Veronica, if you're listening. And she was amazing, and she was still in college. So we had a diverse group of age too. We went from 22 to 50 something, So there was an interesting group of ages in there. We had Wayne Tucker singing and playing trumpet. He also played on Before and Afterlife, and he's been a good pal of mine. And then sort of the holding things down in a lot of ways was a new friend of mine named Clyde Lawrence. Clyde is in a band called Lawrence with his sister Gracie. The band's kind of blowing up right now. They're starting to play pretty big places. They got a really cool vibe, and everyone should check out their music, Lawrence. But I met Clyde in the last year or two, and he said, we actually met before. And I said, when? And he said, I was in high school, and you were touring, and I came to see you, and I met you through somebody backstage. And then I actually remembered who it was, and I'm getting to be the age now where people say to me, I grew up listening to your music or something. And so Clyde and I hit it off, and he's just an amazing musical talent. And so he's playing piano and Wurlitzer, and he's singing all at once. And so that's the whole group. And there's a lot of people. When I think just saying them all, I'm
in this
like,
little
it's
studio.
Yeah, and we got them everyone close together, breathing. I said we should be Eric Hutchinson and the Super Spreaders.
Before you move away from Clyde for a second, so what happened in that meeting? When he met you, did he meet you as just a wide-eyed fan? Was he a burgeoning musician who wanted to ask you questions?
Both of those. Yeah, I met him through my manager at the time. He was looking for a manager, and my manager had been talking with him, and so he introduced me. And we chatted for a minute, but I remembered him and I remembered his name, and so it wasn't. But I didn't put it together till he mentioned it, and I said, "Oh, I totally remember this." And then I said, would you want to play on my record? Maybe that'd be something fun to do. And he's an incredibly busy guy, but he managed to carve out 2 days, and I had no idea just how much of a key player he is. Like, I knew he played and everything, but like he was just a monster in the studio and could play anything and could play everything, and it was really. It was fun. It really added a lot of texture to the music.
It is mind-numbing how talented people are. It's tough enough to make music with other people when you have time to kind of get it down. And I'm not even talking about people who know each other. Like some of the cats that played on Before and After Life, they were, they had played together or done sessions together, even though that was, again, quickly you guys getting in the studio and learning the songs. This is a real disparate group of musicians from different styles who are coming together to do your music. And I know sometimes you do get into one of those anxious feelings right before the project. And then you had to cancel a completely different concept and then do this on the fly. I can't imagine what kind of thoughts you had going into this.
Yeah, January, when we were getting ready to record it, was a stressful month. I was just trying to get everything as prepared as possible. It felt a little bit like my wedding day, just in terms of there's a ton of planning leading up to it. There's a lot of meetings. There's a lot of, well, do you want to have this thing or this thing and this thing and this thing? And it was like everything had to be preconceived. And then when we got there, it was just, let's go. Everyone's here. We got to do it. And I tried really hard to stay as present as possible in the studio because I'd spent so much time sort of envisioning this thing that was going to happen here. And so then here we are. So I tried really hard. And that's partially why I liked having it videoed as well. I wish, now that I did it, I wish I had video of all of my albums being made. This is such an interesting thing to me. I mean, while I was preparing for this album, the Beatles had released Get Back. And I was watching all that and being very inspired. And then actually on our very first day of recording, Ian Allison told me this is actually the anniversary of the day that the Beatles went up on the rooftop. Which I hadn't
January
even known.
30th.
Yes, so that was when we started, and so I was inspired by the Beatles as always. But it was very important for me to have a diverse group of people. I felt for what I was trying to say with the music, I wanted other people to be able to say as well, and other people to be able to represent. So it was a cool thing to put together in a fun group of people.
I want to get into the actual recording of the songs now, but now that you mention it, when you and I talked about it at lunch, I was saying that the day we're taping this is the 50th anniversary of the release of Exile on Main Street, the Stones' famous record from 1972, in which the Stones, in my mind, really did capture all the things they did well, and it was a great, I'll use that word again, homage to all the great American music, whether it be blues, honky-tonk, country, gospel, Tin Pan Alley. It's all on that record, and it's just weird that again, harkening back to the Get Back film, the Peter Jackson footage that he got from the original Let It Be stuff in the Beatles in '69 recording. There's something about people being in a room, as we talked about in the first podcast, that changes the entire dynamic of the recording process. Because even with Before and After Life, I was there for the recording of that. You were in a booth. You're playing live, but you're in a booth. I was out in the room with the musicians, so you're there, but you're kind of not there, especially if you're not wearing the headphones, which I wasn't. You're in the room, as you mentioned in the last podcast. You have no baffles. There are no headphones. What you guys are hearing, it's like you and me right now talking into these microphones. We're not wearing headphones. We're just talking, and the mics are picking us up. That's a unique experience.
Yeah, and I was hopeful we could do it, and we did, to have no headphones on. So yeah, it was just the sound of, what does it sound like when we're all playing in a room together? And some people got to be a little quieter, or sometimes it's harder to hear that thing, but we're all there. And when people were really singing and we're really getting going, there was these great moments of harmony. I mean, it's like true harmony where everything fits together and makes sense.
I can't stress enough, you have to watch the videos, because you really see the smiles and the clapping and the dancing and the looking at each other. You look like you are on cloud nine. There's a couple of times where you're just laughing, but there's also times you look speculative where you're like, oh man, I can't blow this opening, or there's one part where it is like a whole big change, and then it's like a huge time signature change, and it cuts back to you, and you're like, "Whoa, I made it!"
Yeah.
Did that really happen? Because that's what it looked like.
I mean, everything was live, so if you saw it, it happened. But yeah, there was, having to get different things right, and there would be that moment of like, okay, we've done 3/4 of the song. I can't be the one to sing the wrong lyric here and have it start over. And that's something I've loved across the last few of my records is I want to be held accountable the same way that everybody else is. I want to be a part of it. I don't want to be in the recording booth going, okay, a little louder there. I want to be in there being a part of it. And again, with the music, I really wanted to... I didn't feel like these songs were about me very much. I felt like this was... A lot of my earlier music has been about me specifically, and I felt like these songs were a lot more about
the times,
the world, and if and how I fit into that. But I wanted to be a part of a group, I mean, after the protests in 2020, the Black Lives Matter protests and things like that, there was a quote going around on the internet about how there's all different types of ways that people contribute to the movement, and some people are actively in the streets marching, other people are doing other types of protesting, and I felt like this was really my way of making a statement and a point, and hopefully inspiring people.
And we didn't talk about this we touched upon it in the first podcast, but now that you mention it, you felt a unique to you responsibility for the first time to write songs outside of yourself. You've put yourself into social situations, and commented about, immigrants, or commented about, whatever. But this was a concerted effort by you, a themed effort to.
Yeah. I mean, it really was the only thing I felt like I could write about, or that had made sense to write about. And like I said, I didn't write for a very long time after COVID and the lockdown. And this was really the only thing that floated to the top. This is what's changed for me since COVID. And I just had my eyes open to a lot of things I wasn't aware of. I grew up in a really diverse area right outside of Washington, D.C. I grew up around a lot of different languages being spoken, a lot of different people of color. And I sort of naively thought that I understood everything, and I wasn't racist, or I wasn't prejudiced. And, like a lot of people out there, I did a lot of soul searching and learning, and I always have more to learn. But I felt changed, and I felt embarrassed in certain ways, and I felt like writing these songs just felt important to me. And hopefully people will... I don't think these songs are going to change the world, but I hope people will hear them and be inspired. There's one song we'll get into, which is called The Littlest Candle, which is kind of, to me, in a lot of ways, the crux of the album, which is like, the littlest candle still can light the way. So when it's more than you can handle, look for the littlest candle. What's the smallest thing that you or I can do to affect anything around us? Because oftentimes it feels like, well, I can't change the world, so I might as well do nothing. But that's sort of what this album is to me. This is me doing the smallest thing, but making a point, raising my hand and saying, here's how I feel, and encouraging you to think about how you feel.
Yeah, empathy and engagement. Those are the things that, as artists or creative people, the best we can do is to try to understand, and then try to express as best we can, because we don't have all the answers, certainly, but we should at least ask the questions. Speaking of questions, two more on the studio stuff. I'm assuming you really actively the arranger and producer of the record and your songs, but who had the tough job of making this sound good? Because this sounds like a challenge in itself.
Yeah, there was a guy named Eric Elterman who, last time I'd worked with him, he recorded the Flower School sessions for me, which are on the Modern Happiness bonus tracks. And those were done live, and there wasn't nearly as big of a project, but I really liked his vibe. And Eric Elterman walks this really fine line where you can't tell if he doesn't care at all, or if he's just super calm and mellow and prepared, and everything is nothing stressing him out.
You need a guy like that.
Yeah, you have to just assume, okay, he doesn't seem to be worried. I think he feels like everything's going well, or he's just totally checked out and high out of his mind. I'm not sure, but I assume it's the one. So yeah, we had extensive conversations about how do we mic this to give us as much coverage, to give us as many different ways to hear this room. because we were doing it in one take, but I still wanted to have as many ways that when we were mixing it, okay, can we hear more of this singer? You know, this wasn't exactly like the old days where you have one mic hanging in the middle.
Which you did have.
We did have a couple of those mics to get the full room sound, but we still had mics for each person so that, you know, we could bring up a voice if we needed to hear it better or worse. Not worse, but if we needed to hear it better. And so, yeah, Eric Elterman did all that. He mixed it, he produced it. He mixed it and he mastered it and he engineered it, and yeah, it was good.
And lastly, how many takes? We're seeing one take.
Yeah.
So the final thing that you hear on the record and you see in these videos is the take that you're seeing. You're doing it from soup to nuts, beginning to end. But how many did it take? And did you go in and say, this is going to be a tape, or did you run tape all the time? Tape. You run digital all the time, and then that's the one?
Yeah, pretty much. And that's part of why I like the live experience. I'm just less precious than I was when I made some of my earlier records about, well, this thing could be fixed just a little bit. You know, there's that temptation.
That. Yeah.
And it just doesn't jive with me very well anymore. It's not fun for me to go deep into the rabbit hole of like the minutia of stuff. So the first song we did, we found it usually took about 4 takes to like kind of get everyone to where we needed. But we were recording, you know, like from number 1 always, and just to make sure. But early on, I think it was the first song we recorded was "Hey, Look, I Found It," and we finished it, and we listened back to it once, and I said, "Okay, that's it." And Caleb Hawley, who's also a musician and a songwriter, he looked over me and was like, "That's it? You just know that's it? And we're moving on? How do you know that's it? I'd have to listen to this like 100 times and then, you know, think about it and go for a run and go for a walk." And I like the certain level of definitiveness of that's it, we're moving on. And the reason that's it is because we just decided that's it. So there's nothing else we can do to go backwards. And sometimes that bites me a little bit here and there. But in general, I have a pretty good idea of if the moment was right, you know?
Yeah, I did notice that we talked about this too prior to taping, but we should mention it. Your vocals for the first time are not really front and center. They're there, but you're part of the ensemble. So
yes.
this is that was a concerted effort on your part as well, because
yeah, definitely. I mean, thinking about writing the songs, I was thinking these are going to be sung with a group, or these are going to be sung by other people and not just me. I mean, the first song on the album, I don't come in until sort of the chorus section, which I liked. You know, and it was, to me, it was a little, I've been waiting to say this to you, it was a little ode to Stevie Wonder, who starts off his album, oh boy, now I'm blowing it. I'm pretty sure it's Inner Visions. Oh boy, let's edit this out.
Okay.
Let me start.
We can look it up.
We don't have to edit it out. It's fine. I love Stevie Wonder, but I'm blanking on his album title right now. But he opens up with "You Are the Sunshine of My Life."
Oh, that's on Talking Book.
Talking Book. Thank you.
You're very welcome. That's right.
He opens with that, and he's got his singers from his band, and they start, and then he comes in, and I sort of liked that idea. But yes, I was trying to uncenter myself, and I was trying to be a part of it, and it was fun to just play the guitar and watch other people be great at what they do, you know, and take the melody or the lyrics and do their own thing with it. So that was exciting for me.
It's been fun as a music journalist and as a music fan and now a friend of yours to watch you go through this journey since we met in 2006. So I guess I asked this for all the Eric Hutchinson fans, or just people fans of music and songwriters and records. Do you expect to ever return to that way of making music prior to these last 4 albums? Because it seems like you have left the Pure Fiction, Sounds Like This, Moving Up, Living Down, is in the past, and that's it. You did it like you went to high school and college, and now you're moving on. Or do you feel you can return to that? I mean, there's no way you don't have a crystal ball, but
I think I could. I've been working. I told you I've been working on some tracks lately that are just more for me, or maybe for more commercial type stuff, and those are being made more like that. It's fun, also in a different way, but yeah, I would never say never. And yeah, right now for me, what excites me is getting a bunch of people together to see if I can make the record happen in person. Sort of piecemeal stuff is just a different beast, but I would never say no to any of it. And in many ways, that's the easier way to make stuff these days and more practical. And it's probably how 95% of the music you hear on the radio is made, is people sending tracks back and forth through the internet. So this was a very old-fashioned way to make a record, for better or for worse. But the music was a little bit old-fashioned inspired, so I felt like that was right.
And you nailed it. So I enjoyed the hell out of this thing, and I can't wait to go through every song. This is the stuff that we love. So the next series of podcasts, you'll be hearing all 6 songs, snippets of them. We'll go through the songs proper. We'll talk about all the great performances in them. There are many, many excellent ones. And now that we know how the record was inspired and how the record was made, it really goes down to, do the songs work within that construct? And like I said, it absolutely does for me. So once again, I'm James, that's Eric, and we're going to go through the songs, so stick with us. This is always a lot of fun for me.
The littlest candle, it's looking like the way. The littlest candle, it's looking like the way. Gotta pick up the bass, pick up the bass. Gotta pick up the bass, pick up the bass. There ain't no time to lose and no time to waste. Sun is shining, it's getting hot. Ocean's rising, ready or not. Wanna save the humans, gotta pick up the bass. Sing along.